Gummy now. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, members of council, administrative staff, and members that are joining us in the gallery, and those that are watching along on our live feed. Welcome to council chambers on this beautiful May 23rd. It is a Tuesday, and that usually happens when there is a statutory holiday on Monday, which happened for Victoria long weekend. Hopefully everybody had the opportunity to spend some time with some friends and loved ones and kind of celebrated when the rains came down a little bit. I think there's a few songs about that, but I'm not going to sing any of them for you, so you can just Google those songs, because it is actually nice to have that refreshing rain. And hopefully that provided some assistance to the firefighters out there that are dealing and battling with the forest fires that are right now rampant throughout our communities. Members of council, there's an agenda before you. Deputy Mayor, for the adoption, please.
Mr. Mayor, I move that Town Council adopt the May 23, 2023 regular council meeting agenda as amended.
Thank you. Administration, anything to add?
Nothing to add, Your Worship.
Why is it amended? Good.
As presented.
As presented? Thank you. I thought we had something changed, that's why it was amended. But, okay, so it is as presented. Call the question, all in favor? That is carried. Okay, moving number 3 on our agenda is the public input session. This is the time that we allow residents to address council on anything that's not on the agenda. Administration, has anybody registered to speak to council?
Your Worship, no one registered.
Okay. Right, anybody in the gallery like to address council on anything that's not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Number 4 is presentations and delegations. We have nothing scheduled tonight. Number 5 is statutory public hearings. We have nothing scheduled tonight either. So moving on to adoption of council meeting minutes for May 8th. Councillor Meyer, please.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. The Town Council approved the May 8th, 2023 regular council meeting minutes as presented.
Okay. Thank you. Members of council, you had the opportunity to read them. Any errors or omissions on those minutes? Okay, see none. Just want to thank council for taking up the slack, and especially Deputy Mayor Hansford for chairing the meeting. I believe that was the evening that we were celebrating my aunt's celebration of life. So thank you very much for stepping in. Councillor Hansford as the Deputy Mayor. Call the question, all in favor? And that is carried. Move on to number 7. Council boards and committees. Councillor Anderson for all 3, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move that Town Council receive the council board and committee committee minutes for information as they're presented here this evening.
Okay. Thank you. Members of council, you had a chance to read all 3 of them. So that's the subdivision appeal board from November 3rd, the Stony Library from March 15th, and the TLC from March 9th, and also April 20th. Any questions to the council representatives that represent us on those boards? Okay. Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Just to comment that one of those meeting minutes from the Tri-Leisure was a correction to the questions that you and I believe Councillor Loynes had one council meeting regarding some things. They were corrected.
Okay. Thank you for that follow-up. And yes, and that was a little while ago we asked those questions, and I appreciate you sending that email and clarifying what was said. Okay. Any other questions, comments? Okay. Just one question for the member that sits on the subdivision appeal. This is November 3rd, 2022. So that must be the last time there was a meeting. How regular is the subdivision appeal board meeting minutes or meetings?
Thank you, Your Worship. So the SDAB, or Subdivision Development Appeal Board, meets as required. So anytime there is actually an appeal that is required to be held by the board, it is called out by the SDAB clerk, and then the meeting itself is held. Therefore, the adoption of the previous meeting minutes are not completed until the next hearing. So we just had a hearing, forgive me, I can't remember the exact date off the top of my head, the 4th, thank you, on May 4th. So on May 4th, we were able to adopt the November 3rd hearing minutes.
Thank you for that information and clarification. Anything else? Councillor Anderson, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a quick question for information for the council member that sits on the TLC board, and that's just in relation to page 28 of our package, item 4.3 of those particular minutes. I'm not familiar with the TLC scholarship program, and so I was just looking for a little bit of information about what that includes.
May I answer, Your Worship? Thank you. Through you to Councillor Anderson and all of council. The TLC has set up a scholarship opportunity for employees of the TLC who want to further their education. It's an incentive to encourage them to stay with us, and they can apply. Now we're having a meeting to revise some of the details around that first. The committee will meet, and then we will have the actual consideration of those people who apply. And I believe what we're moving into is 5 $1,000 scholarships that will help someone who is now currently employed with the TLC to further their education at an institution of higher learning in some way. I believe it can also be in the trades. So it helps them and it helps us to keep good people.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. I think that's fantastic. You know, further education is always welcome and always exciting to see. And it sounds like there's some decisions to be made. So it looks like the uptake of that initiative is strong. So great to see. Thank you.
That's good. And then just to reiterate, so Councillor Hansard, Deputy Mayor, you said there's 5 $1,000 scholarships?
We're deciding that, Mr. Mayor. It has been flexible in the past. There was a time or two when not very many people applied. And so there's been a promotion from the leadership over there among the employees to let them know this is available and it is an opportunity for you to get some extra education under your belt and let us help you with that. So we're going to fine tune that because there was a whole big discussion around some of the way the money was given out before and what it would be now. So we're going to finalize that, have that approved by the board, and then I can let council know, and it will be in our minutes as well.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Councillor Loynes?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Hansard, could you just confirm the employees, was they full-time or part-time, or is it just all employees in general?
That's part of what we're discussing. I don't believe it has to be full-time, but it has to be an employee. It's not their children, it's the employee themselves.
Thank you.
See no more hands. Just maybe some commentary from the Deputy Mayor. A little while ago, we understand that the TLC had some issues with some leaky pipes. Swimming was shut down. Just wanted to get an update about are things back in operational, and how's that going with everything?
Mr. Mayor, the last response that we had on the TLC board was that everything was under control, and they are looking at some different things that would hopefully keep things like this under control, keep them from happening, because the last thing we want is a big expense. Now, are you talking about the leak that was under the pool?
Yes.
That has been rectified,
Okay.
all of that.
Yep.
And most of it was covered by the insurance company.
That's good to hear. Thank you. Any other questions for clear understanding? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Move number 8 is bylaws. We have nothing scheduled tonight. So moving on to business items is 9.1, and it's the Roots of Hope Committee report. Go ahead, administration.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to the rest of council. We're very pleased to present this mental health update around the Roots of Hope project this evening. We have been working with the Canadian Mental Health Commission of Canada since 2021 to build this strategy and bring it to Stony Plain. I'm happy to introduce our Community Development Officer, Brooknell Bignell, who will walk us through the latest update. Ms. Bignell?
Thank you, Lisa. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. It's a pleasure to be here today to speak about the Roots of Hope project. But before I get too far into the project itself, I'd like to do just a brief overview of the wellness portfolio to provide some further context. So in 2017, mental wellness was officially added to the service delivery model of FCSS, and in 2019, the Creating Hope project was implemented for suicide prevention. As Lisa mentioned, in 2021, the Roots of Hope Early Adopters Initiative began work to create an action plan for suicide prevention in the tri-municipal region. So community and social development incorporates community wellness through skill development, outreach and awareness, community supports, research, and capacity building. More specifically, when we talk about skill development, we're referring to providing training to increase resiliency, life promotion, and reducing the impacts of suicide in our community. And in terms of outreach and awareness, we're working to promote mental wellness through the lifespan, in doing so through campaigns and community events such as Mental Health Week. We also keep up to date with emerging research and areas of focus. And I believe that one of our greatest strengths is collaboration and striving to build capacity for Stony Plain residents. And so a great example of our ongoing collaboration is the Roots of Hope project. The Roots of Hope project began in 2021 in partnership with the Canadian Mental Health Commission of Canada and is a model that supports populations to reduce the impacts of suicide in their communities. Stony Plain is one of 8 communities across Canada to join the Roots of Hope Early Adopters project to create and begin implementing the model. Since the project began, we've completed stages 1 through 3 of creating the community action plan, which includes defining our initiative, assembling a team, developing strategies, and engaging with community. So the model is based on 5 pillars, which is raising awareness, means of safety, training, specialized supports, and research. It builds on community expertise to implement suicide prevention and life promotion interventions with the aim to reduce the impact of suicide. So this refers to individuals who have experienced thoughts of suicide, those who have attempted suicide, as well as those who care for someone who has. This initiative is Stony Plain led, but involves representatives across the tri-municipal region. So that includes Victim Services of Stony Plain, Spruce Grove, and District, Parkland RCMP, Center for Suicide Prevention, Paul First Nation Health Services, the City of Spruce Grove Community Social Development, Braden Center for Career Advancement, a lived experience member, a community advocate, Mental Health Commission of Canada, and of course the Town of Stony Plain and Coordinated Suicide Prevention Program. So all members of the roundtable are either provided time to participate in the project by their employer or are volunteers with the Town of Stony Plain. So the Roots of Hope Roundtable objective is to reduce the impact of suicide in the tri-municipal region by increasing awareness and leveraging the strength of our local resources. So using the framework provided by the Mental Health Commission, we created a draft action plan to bring forward to community this past March. On March 21st, the Community and Social Development Roundtable were presented with the draft action plan and provided feedback. In addition to the roundtable presentation, community was invited to attend a Roots of Hope event on March 23rd. It was hosted by the Roots of Hope Roundtable with special guests from the Mental Health Commission of Canada. The event was open to the public and promoted through multiple communication tools. And the event included guest speaker Christopher Marks, who shared his deeply personal story of surviving suicide, followed by the presentation from the Mental Health Commission and Roots of Hope Roundtable on the Roots of Hope initiative and the draft action plan. Participants were then asked to review the action items presented under each of the pillars and add anything they felt was missing, then choose 2 action items under each of the pillars they felt were a high priority and mark them with a green sticker. So the statistics being provided today are based on the feedback that was received, noting it was not mandatory for each participant to select 2 actions at each station, but it was highly encouraged. So with a total of 46 participants at the event, representing both professionals and public perspectives, 95% felt confident that our community is working towards reducing the impact of suicide in the region. So this is what we heard. Under the Raising Awareness pillar, participants ranked providing messaging for all target groups as a top priority, followed by encouraging media involvement and awareness campaigns. Recommendations provided by participants were to find high-profile champions and continue to work on reducing the associated stigma. Under means of safety, participants ranked providing while you wait supports as a top priority, followed by signs in public spaces, safety planning, a public navigation document, and medicine lockboxes. Recommendations by participants were to incorporate youth and family crisis training, specialized peer support program for individuals to access a trained lived experienced member, and an Indigenous circle of safety. Under the training pillar, participants felt that a review of frontline worker training is a high priority, followed by peer support and bystander training, suicide prevention training, and then pharmacy awareness training. So recommendations by participants were more bystander training for individuals such as hairdressers, transit drivers, coaches in our community, people that will naturally feel confident and comfortable going to talk to, training that incorporates an Indigenous lens, and postvention training. Under specialized supports, participants identified actions towards reconciliation as a top priority, followed by support for families after a suicide attempt, additional tools for emergency services, and support groups. So recommendations by participants were to again provide supports that incorporate an Indigenous lens, have resources at public libraries, as well as a support group for family members or support persons. Under the research pillar, participants felt that having provincial and local data is a high priority, followed by the e-mental health study for youth, which is an online platform for youth and their healthcare provider that matches a youth with different apps and online tools to help care for their mental health between sessions with their care provider. And followed by farm mental health. So current studies are now being done through the University of Alberta to learn more about how agricultural stressors affect individuals' mental health and how that increases their risk for suicide. So recommendations by participants were to conduct or follow more research studies on high-risk and vulnerable groups, root causes of suicide, trends and best practices, research tools to better share information between agencies, and learn more about the correlation between addictions and suicide. So throughout the engagement of each of the 5 pillars, 2 common themes arose, which were a focus on providing family or support persons with more resources to care for those struggling with suicide, and applying an Indigenous-focused lens on suicide prevention and life promotion training, programming, and supports. And so our next steps after conducting the engagement. The Roots of Hope Roundtable has taken the information provided by participants, and we've incorporated them into the community action plan. We will continue to shift priority areas as needed, and as each of these action items are being completed, we will incorporate evaluation components to both the individual action as well as collectively under the action plan. Beginning in June, we will be transitioning from the Roots of Hope Early Adopters Program to the Roots of Hope National Community of Practice to work on implementing the action plan, utilizing support from the Canadian Mental Health Commission and our neighboring communities. We believe that through the Roots of Hope action plan, we can not only better the lives of the individuals impacted by suicide in our community, but work to create a suicide-safer community as a whole. Which brings us to the end of the presentation, so I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you for your presentation, and it's always good to see what's happening in your community, and thank you for the work and your leadership in this file. Members of council, any questions and comments regarding the presentation? Questions for clarity, understanding? Okay, I'll start. I think you mentioned earlier with the partners in terms of the Roots of Hope, but I didn't hear you mention Parkland County. I think you mentioned the city of Spruce Grove. I was just wondering if there's a disconnect there, or is Parkland County doing their own study in terms of how they're addressing mental health in their communities? Because I noticed you said farm mental health too in here, so I thought they would tie in with rural Parkland County.
Yes, thank you for your question, Mayor. So Parkland County is kept in the loop, and we update them on everything that we do regarding Roots of Hope. Just part of our funding agreement, I am basically kind of the persons leading the project for both the town of Stony Plain and Parkland County. So we update them, we invite them to all of our meetings, but primarily we just keep them in touch with what we're doing.
Thank you. Questions? Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I wanted to say that I attended the event at the Heritage Center, and I have to say I was quite impressed with the group of people that assembled there. At my own table, there was a large spectrum of people, and as we got up and worked our way around the room to put ideas up on the wall, every group that I went to, there was a lot of really good ideas that came forward. I actually stood there thinking, they don't need me in this place, because there was so much that the people there could offer and a lot of wisdom and experience. So it was great.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Councilor Lowry, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. And just to echo a little bit of what Deputy Mayor Hansard said, he was fortunate to be able to attend this event. And actually, as I read through the report that came out after, I'm impressed with the level of what was discussed and how it was captured, because there was a ton of information that was brought forward that day. And as Councillor Hansard said, the number of groups we had, in particular the speaker we had as well with Chris, and him sharing his story about what he went through and that local lived experience. And so, you know, I'm glad to see this continuing forward. I'm glad to see that we are one of the, I don't know if it was necessarily a trial community or a pilot community, and maybe you can just speak a little bit to that. So with where this is at now, how are we contributing to that program to try and, you know, advocate for it to become larger? I think you said there's 18 communities across Canada in total that are participating right now. I mean, that's a drop in the bucket in comparison to what we have. So how is Stony Plain and the work that we're doing here going to contribute up into the Roots of Hope program to develop that and bring it out to a broader range of communities?
Absolutely. Through your worship to Councillor Lowry and the rest of council, we're actually one of 8 communities. So we were part of the Roots of Hope Early Adopters Project. So in other words, it was a bit of a pilot, and it's been really successful, and the communities that have engaged and participated have really done a lot in their communities. And so as we move forward from the Roots of Hope to the National Community of Practice, the Canadian Mental Health Commission are doing a lot on their end to also kind of expand the program. So part of that is each of our 8 communities kind of presenting what we've done in our communities, the work that we've done, and the feedback that we've received, and ways that we can ask the Commission for further assistance, whether that's having kind of regular meetings with all of the communities, whether that's having a website where we can, whenever we have a question or concern about something that we're trying to do or a project we're trying to initiate in our community, we can reach out to our fellow communities. Because it is one of 8 across Canada, they're not all in Alberta, of course. So it is really interesting to kind of keep in touch and hear successes and what's worked, what hasn't worked in other communities. So I think this next step of the National Community of Practice is going to be a big jump. And I think that in hearing from the 8 communities that have participated will encourage other communities to jump on board.
Excellent, thank you. And yeah, sorry, I had pulled up the website, and that's where I pulled the 18. It says today there are over 18 Roots of Hope communities, including 3 provinces and territories. So it sounds like that's already starting to expand, which is great. Mm-hmm. And I'll further on to it. In the 3 provinces and 1 territory, it speaks to New Brunswick, Newfoundland, Labrador, Saskatchewan, and Yukon. Is there any indication that, especially given that FCSS that contributes in is kind of more, it has FCSS-AA and it has the provincial association, is there any thoughts or any word as to whether this will become a provincial initiative versus a local initiative, or how's that looking?
Yeah, so through your worship to Councillor Lowry and the rest of council, I can't speak necessarily on that aspect just because it is Canadian Mental Health Commission led. So I think that as, again, they kind of step into the National Community of Practice and they look to expand, they might look to kind of directly have conversations with provinces, but as per right now, it's just definitely community-led, whether they would like to kind of participate or not.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you. Members of council, any more questions? Okay, Councilor Anderson, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't so much have a question, but just an appreciation, I think, for yourself and the work that you've done, for the GM of Community and Social Development, for addressing this at a community level. And I think so often when we're looking for support around suicide ideation, a lot of the resources that are available on our larger scale or a national scale, Kids Help Phone, I think there's Talk Suicide Canada, this sort of thing. And so to be able to bring that to a local level, being able to provide local contacts, local support, local training for the local context is so powerful. And so, I'm not, excited that this is an issue that needs to be addressed in our community, but I'm very thankful and excited that we have taken a lead in this and recognize the importance of suicide awareness and preventative training. And so thank you so much for the work that you're doing.
Great. Any more questions, comments? See none. Thank you for the presentation. Definitely, it's well worth taking the time to kind of have those conversations openly with the community about mental health and wellness in our communities. Mental health is not a individual game. It always takes a community to help everybody out of their depression or things that they don't see that's happening to them. Many people, we've probably experienced that on the surface they look perfectly fine, they're happy, and then a few months later or a year later you realize that they passed away. I think that has an impact in all our lives. And we never know if somebody's hurting inside, so we'll tend to put that facade on. So the more that we talk about it openly, the better it is for our community to address the mental health issues in our community. So thank you for taking that lead. Okay. Councilor Laurie with the motion, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move the Town Council accept the Mental Wellness Update Roots of Hope Community Report for information.
Okay. Thank you. Members of council, any questions, comments, and debate on the motion? See none, I'll call a question. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Moving on to number 10, which is council discussion. We'll start with Councilor Plechko.
I'll take a pass tonight, nothing this evening.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
I just wanted to mention, Mr. Mayor, that your proclamation this week, National Week recognizing public works employees and departments, is near and dear to my heart as my daughter is with Public Works in the city of Spruce Grove. So I really appreciate that, but we certainly do appreciate everything that Public Works does for us. It's a very important department. There's so many different facets. From time to time, someone in the public has something negative to say, but for the most part, I believe people are extremely appreciative of the way that all of our Public Works employees go above and beyond the call of duty. They make us all look good, and they make our community a welcoming place for visitors and residents alike. So certainly this councilor, and I'm sure I'm not speaking alone when I say that we value our Public Works employees and Public Works employees everywhere.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Appreciate that, and definitely you're correct. Public Works Department is usually the first phase or aspect that residents and non-residents see of our community, so definitely well done. General Manager. Councilor Loynes.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to mention that on Saturday from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m., the RCMP is celebrating 150 years, and they are hosting a free event, which will include a barbecue, police dog demonstrations, bouncy castles, mini donuts, and etc. So if anybody has time, it would be great to show our support for RCMP.
Thank you, Councilor Loynes. Councilor Laurie.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple of things. I'll start in regards to both line painting and the street sweeping. So notice we did have the line painting completed throughout the community, though there are a couple of areas in the community that were done that had not necessarily been swept, and the lines aren't looking their best. I also noticed coming on to, I believe it's 44th from Veterans Boulevard, it looks like there's an area where they didn't actually complete. It's supposed to be round and hashed through, and it's just not. There's a line on either side, and then it's disconnected and what have you. So I'm just wondering if we can get a little update on that. And then the second part in regards to street sweeping is, noticing very similar problems with street sweeping as we saw in snow removal, where people are not actually moving their vehicles. And I've been taking a look at the way that we're communicating out. We do have our signage out. It is posted on our website, but it says to refer to the website for a schedule. And then when you go on the website, you don't actually see a schedule necessarily of the upcoming neighborhoods. You see the next day or two maybe, and then you see when areas were completed. I know in the past we have had a schedule, and that schedule has, had words like tentatively planned for, and it's given a range of a few dates, like, from the 21st to the 25th. I'm seeing, for instance, Willow Park, no date, St. Andrews, Genesis, Meridian Heights, Old Town, Folkestone, Brickyard. They don't have dates. And so when we're already struggling with communicating with residents of when this is to occur and moving vehicles and things, I'm wondering why we've shifted away from actually providing at least a tentative schedule as we did in the past. If we can get some answers to those.
Through your worship to Councillor Laurie, thank you for the question. So there's a multi-parts in there, so I'll do my best to recall everything. Generally speaking, on the street sweeping and line marking, appreciate the comments that there's been some overlap and maybe some mislocations with the street sweeping and the line painting. We understand those are very important for the community and how those things get cleaned up and refreshed in that order. The line marking contract, there was some emphasis to get that going sooner rather than later, and maybe there was not as much communication between the crews and the contract and the work being done that could have been, and so there might have been some unfortunate overlap, and we'll definitely take those comments back to Public Works to address. With regards to the scheduling, we do have a new supervisor and new manager there that are trying some different approaches with the crews right now, and that has taken some different approaches with scheduling, and maybe the communication hasn't been exactly the same as has it been in the past. These are comments that we're taking to heart as we grow with them and take some comments back from the crews as well. So I'll be passing that along and maybe working with, and I will be working with them to see how we can better communicate a better schedule for residents so that, like you said, there's a more concerted effort that from our part so that residents can know what to expect in their neighborhoods and be more proactive to allow us to do the good work for the street sweeping as they go through.
Excellent, thank you. And in regards to the line painting, I'm supportive of alternative service delivery where it makes sense, and I think you hit the nail on the head that we definitely need to make sure we have alignment and coordination with our internal departments and contractors and expectations so that we don't run into these type of issues. And then, in regards to the street sweeping and as we saw in the winter, the snow removal, I know council's kind of flagged this as something that we want to talk about as well, but I think, items like our signage, potentially ticketing, towing, those type of things is something that needs to be heavily discussed. I've seen many neighborhoods over the last several days, mine in particular today, where the number of vehicles on the street didn't look any different than a regular day of the week. So it seems like our current practices are not being effective to what they need. And I'm sure the job would be much easier if the streets were vacant and the equipment was allowed to freely clean up the entire street in one pass rather than having to come back around. We'll move on, if I may, Your Worship. Thank you. Just want to see if we can get an update on the spray park and the outdoor pool. I know we had a little bit of challenge in getting the outdoor pool open, and I'm wondering with the warm weather we had in early May, if there was a reason why we weren't able to have the spray park opened up for residents to enjoy during that period.
Your Worship, to Councillor Laurie, certainly I'll give you the update first and then your second question. So water tests went in today to the provincial government, so hopefully by the end of the week we'll have those back and we'll have the pool open as scheduled. Also with the spray park, we're fortunate we can circulate or we can go to drain. So while the water test is coming back from the province, it's open to drain will start circulating once we get that positive water test back from the province, which we expect later this week with the pool results. Reason why the splash park was not open, I know there was a couple things that they had to repair at the splash park, so they did get that sorted out. And also the staffing component to that is in correlation with the outdoor pool with the TLC staffing. So the water testing treating is done by the TLC. So they tried their best to get that done in coordination with the pool. We are looking at a different model for next year. If we continue to have these warmer spells before the long weekend, our goal would be to open both facilities sooner than the long weekend if the weather does permit to do that. Typically speaking, end of April is when we're safe to start operating water, and particularly those types of facilities. I think April 30th is when the ice was out and we had everything sucked out and ready for filling again, and the work that had to be finished in the pool basin for this particular year. So that being said, no repairs being completed. Likely May 1 is when we can start to get our staff in there to get everything sorted out, and we can start, based on the TLC's availability for staffing, we can potentially get the pool open sooner than that May long weekend.
Excellent, thank you. And just a quick follow-up on that, you mentioned in regards to the spray park and the outdoor pool, the need for some repairs. Now, when we close the pool down, memory serves me right, I think it's September long weekend, is there not an opportunity for repairs prior to the winter season, or is there a reason why repairs aren't done prior to the winter season, or is it just a matter of the repairs were not able to be completed before snow, ice, etc., and they carried over into the spring?
Your Worship, through the Councillor Laurie, certainly the contractor was in the fall and did some prep work and that shortened the time frame in the spring. So the contractor did come in. There was an extra step that we didn't foresee we would have to take with respect to their repair, and that just delayed them long enough that the ambient temperature for the product to cure was not possible.
Excellent, thank you very much. Other than that, Your Worship, only thing I have is just excited to attend the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Conference in Toronto this upcoming week with fellow colleagues, yourself and Councillor Anderson. So looking forward to that and all the sessions and speakers and networking that we'll get to do at that event. So that's all from me this evening.
Thank you, Councillor Laurie. Councillor Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just very quickly, this is a big week for us in Alberta, as it always is every 4 years, with the start of advanced voting for our provincial election. So just encourage residents to educate yourselves, look for what's important to you. I know there's lots of information out there from all of our candidates. I believe we have 4 in Spruce Grove, Stony Plain riding. And with that, want to say a special thank you to the Regional Chamber of Commerce, who's been working diligently hosting candidate forums to get the information out there in terms of party platforms and get to know candidates and those sorts of things. So we have a few locations around the municipality if you're an advanced voter. Our Perk building's open through the week, 9 to 8, Heritage Park Pavilion till 8 this evening and tomorrow, and then the Seniors Drop-In Center Thursday through Saturday. So lots of opportunity to get out and vote. Special thank you again to our administration as well, members of council, for the work that has been done leading up to the election, engaging with all of the candidates so that regardless of how Monday goes, we can continue advancing priorities for the town. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. Councillor Meyer.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Just one upcoming event I want to make council and all of everyone aware of. Saturday, May 27th, 9 a.m. till 3 p.m. at the Stony Plain United Church in the basement. The Friends of the Library are holding their annual book sales and more. So encourage everyone to come out there and support that. Those funds go right back to our library and help support programs there. As well, there will be a 50-50 draw, so you could win some money.
Okay. Thank you for bringing that to our attention, Councillor Meyer. Anything else? Okay. Thank you. And just some, I guess, concerns to staff. I received one call from a resident regarding individuals climbing up on top of the four-screen school in the evenings. So if that can be marked down and maybe have some kind of patrol or check on that. would be appreciated. And there's another one we received from a couple of residents regarding downtown. There seems to be a group of, they said, 4 to 5 youth around downtown between 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning, creating a ruckus. So I'm not too sure if our peace officers are available that time or if the RCMP needs to be notified, but it's been kind of weekly occurrence happening. The thing is, with the warmer weather, a couple of issues regarding speeding on 50th Street. The scenario is that cars stop at 53rd Avenue, and then they speed south along 50th Street all the way down to 57th Avenue because there's no stop signs anywhere between that. Cars have been witnessed to get error when they come north on that, and so I think that's a location that might be a little bit tricky because there is a little kind of hill there, especially that's a crossing over to the Perk Building and also to the new Francophone School as well as Stony Plains Central as well. Okay. Just leave those to staff. Again, a couple things just for FYI for members of council. This Wednesday, 24th, down at Heritage Park Pavilion, the Stony Plains in District 4-H is having a 4-H show and shine, so if anybody's interested in supporting the local youth in our communities, definitely always good to go there and give them some support. And if you're lucky enough, you can purchase a steer as well, if you like. But that is if you like to go out there and just give them support, and they're actually in our communities. I mentioned again on Monday the 29th, it is Election Day 2023. As mentioned, there is a lot of candidates in our riding. There are 4 candidates in our riding, so definitely take the time to research each party and what each candidate does. The town has the list of our priorities, which we made really, really simple, and there's 2 of them. The first priority is funding for a recreational center that we've been contemplating since 2006. This will be the first recreational center that Stony Plains will be building since 1967. And since the time of population, our population has tripled in our own community, but also tripled in the region that we support. So that's one of the top priorities we have. The second one is also the expansion and better services and care at the Westview Health Center. It was built in the early 2000s. I think it was 2000 or 2001. It was officially opened. And since we service a region of about 90,000 people, so Stony Plains, Spruce Grove, and the surrounding areas, that facility is no longer adequate to make sure that the healthcare of our region is looked after. So that is the second highest priority that we have in terms of this election. Okay. With that, where are we here? Well, yes, and definitely FCM, looking forward to attending the Federation of Canadian Municipalities with some fellow colleagues. On June 1st, if you have not yet signed up, there is a adaptabilities breakfast, and that's just a breakfast where we sit there and celebrate diversities and abilities of people with some challenges. We make sure that it's always good to be there and support, as Stony Plains is looking to be a more diverse and inclusive community. And it's good to hear from kind of the subject experts of what's going on. And also June 1st, the same day, later in that afternoon, we have the official opening of the École de Trinity. That is the Francophone Starter School that was built this summer and it opened for its first year. So members of the community and hopefully we're able to celebrate that grand opening. Okay. And that is it. With that, we are adjourned. And pretty cool that our meeting was so quick. It's almost like a playoff run. I'm saying, oh. We're adjourned. Thank you.